Hello, I'm Julie, and I'm going to be your guide through this class that I call Simple Wonders. And the first thing I do in my videos is showcase the items that goes in with the companion kit for this project. And so I'm going to go through the kit, and then I'm going to go through the things that you need to supply, the items you need to supply. So the link to purchase the kit is down in the description of this class, and that also takes you to my website that sells the molds and other shrink plastic things, and everything that's part of my Shrinkets brand. So if you didn't buy the kit, what you need to do is supply everything I'm going to be showing you. So here's first the kit. The kit will come with a gorgeous color. One might be variegated, or you might get the aqua. There'll be a beautiful hand-dyed silk sewn edge ribbon for your piece. And then you will have your shrink plastic that has been pre-tinted for you. You'll have an ink pad and a dauber for you to do inking. And then you'll have your bag of findings. You're going to have your glass globe. You're going to have the leaf beads, your filigree, all the little seed bead with choice options, and some fire line in there. And this one looks like it's got a beading needle. I'll try to put beading needles in them, but I'm not going to assure that they all do. I think this got in there by accident. I'm going to suggest that you supply a beading needle for this. And so you may have a surprise, and there might be one in your kit. So, like this one just surprised me. So the next thing I'm going to do is go through what you need to supply. You're going to need your heat gun to heat your shrink plastic, and the Shrinkets cone mold, which is a 3-part mold. We're going to be using these 2 parts, but it comes with 3 parts. So that's the red cone mold. Then you're going to need something to cut fire line with. I'm grabbing it. A lot of people will go to the dollar store and get inexpensive titanium scissors and use them until they've worn out, which the shrink plastic the fire line can dull that. But fishing line cutters will work just fine. Beadsmith bead zapper. If you're a beader, you'll have the equipment. If not, start out with titanium scissors, or an X-Acto knife will work just fine. So next you're going to want to supply colored pencils, and I've got these just in shades of blues and greens, but if you want to add purples and stuff to it, you can. So so colored pencils. And then I show you, this is if you did not buy the kit and you want to tint your shrink plastic. I tinted it with spray paint on the shiny side, and explain that a little bit more in the next step. And this is Design Master, and this is Krylon, on a green and a soft blue. Talk a little bit more about that, like I said, in the next step. But if you buy the kit, it's already been tinted for you, as well as the leaf beads. Okay, so let's get started. In this step, I'm going to show you how to color the beads using the ink pad in your kit and some colored pencils. I'm going to just show a variety. You can select anything you want from your sheet here to use in your kit, and that's why I'm just going to show you a variety here in different ways and some examples that I've already pre-done. As far as the color on the shrink plastic goes, how I did this is I sprayed on the shiny side, and I used spray paint. These are 2 brands, that work very well, and they will adhere to the shiny side of your shrink plastic and the frosted side. And this one's by Krylon, and this is their stained glass series, and this is called the Design Master, and they make these to color flowers, but it works great on the shrink plastic. I chose to spray on the shiny side since it would adhere to the shiny side. And the reason I did that is sometimes when you use spray paint, it can alter the tooth on the sanded side, making it a little bit more difficult for mediums to adhere like colored pencils. Well, especially colored pencils. And I knew that I wanted to use colored pencils on this, so I sprayed the shiny side so that my tooth remained intact on this. And then I sprayed my leaves a little greener than the beads. And like I said, I had pre-done some of these to give you some ideas of patterns that you can use, but I'm going to show examples here. Looks like I stepped on some shrink plastic down here. Now I'm going to be doing this on the frosted side, and I've got an ink pad here. You'll have a mini pad. This is, you know, from my personal collection, and it's the blue that you'll be using, and I'm getting a lot of that excess off. So one option would be just to buff this edge, the interior. Another option would be to just tint your pieces. Just the perimeters. So you just have edge shading to play with. And another one would be to buff more of the surfaces here. And then I always like to blot what I've done to get any excess ink off of those. Okay, but we're doing this very, it looks like there's a little bit of selvage on that piece there. So here's some pieces I had done earlier. Center, and then I buffed a little here, and a little here, and a little here. And then perimeter on this, and some patterns, and I'll lay those out at the end of this step to show you. So then you have options, you know, if you have a variety of colored pencils, that's nice. You can introduce those in. You can introduce some purples too if you want, or whatever you might want to introduce with it. I'm just going to be showing things that are in the shades of the colors of the kit. And on this one, now these are just to give you different ideas. Oops, looks like I forgot that. This is kind of reminiscent of a snowflake. See, this is the same shape, I think, and there was something different I did with it. Okay, totally different. And then let's see, this one here, you can always cut these pokey things off. I believe in one of the one of these has them with it and one sheet has them without. So giving you two examples, that gives you an opportunity to come out with rays. And here you can come in with some shading if you would like. I'm going to go back with the green because I think it's going to show up more on this. I'm going to burnish my pencil, and then just lightly I'm going outside the lines and just shading this. I'm going into kind of a twirly motion, twirling my hand for shading. Kind of looks like I went out of the line there with my little circle. It's okay. I'm going to smear this, blending it a little bit more. And once again, I'm on the frosted side. And I will take the edge of my scissors and scrape that little mistake off. There, fixed. Okay, now I'm going to come out here with little dark blue dots. So that's just one option. Notice, see how different those are. And then this was one that I had done earlier, shading with the ink pad and then some patterns on that. And then here's a smaller one. Let's see, what do we want to do with this? Here, whoa. That's my dog in the background, wanting me to come sit down. Let's see what I'm coming out here with dots. And I think really light little lines here. And let's come in here with a dot here. Yeah. And then here were some examples I had done with the leaves. And I'm gonna show more. So this might be something that you could do. Okay, and then here's one you could do. Okay, so this gives you a lot of little examples of how you can color these beads. And you can choose, like I said, any one that you want for your piece. Of course, you're going to be using the leaf beads, and it's just gonna, you can play around. So now we're going to go on to shrinking, and I'll just shrink just an example of two of them, and then the leaves. We're ready to shrink, and I'm just going to shrink a couple of these down, and you can go ahead and shrink all of yours down so that you have choices when you're designing. I'm going to do this one, and I can put either side down, and I'm going to show you. That's why I've done some of these, so I'll be flipping them around. Since we've got color sprayed on one side and designed patterns and ink on the other side, we might get a little bit of a depth thing, you know, where we'll have a depth of color showing through. So let's see how that works out. I'm going to be placing it in my bowl because it's easy for me to show you shrinking. I can lift up this little bowl and then show you. I do like to come straight down and hold my heat gun out to the perimeter of the bead, and I like my heat gun about at the level of the metal glide pin. And I can hold this up like this so you can see me shrinking. I'm going to have to, I'm just going to tilt it a little bit, trying to get the best view for you. And it's done moving on its own accord. And now I'm going to come in with my, the cone top of the cone set. And I'm going to hold that to the count of 5. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And that's showcasing the side that I designed on. And see how vibrant that is? It's really beautiful. And let's see, I'm going to do a little smaller one here. And I'm going to place this one here. I placed the drawn side down on the bead, so we see the drawn side on the outside of it. That was the frosted side. This side I'm going to place the spray painted side down on the bead. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And if you do several of these, when I go to assemble it all, I'm going to be using 2 and then the leaf beads. But it doesn't mean that that's your only option. You could layer them up together like so if you wanted. So here's our how this looks. I'll show you. This is it with the design on the outside, and this here is with me having the spray painted side face down in the bowl. So that's our surface, and you can see that the drawn layers are deeper in there, giving us a nice depth. So I'm going to do one more. Let's see. This one, I'm going to do this one because we have, pop that out. That's center. Because I have a lot out here, again, to the tip. And I am going to put the spray painted side. The design side is where I'm looking at it. So it'll be in the interior, and the spray painted side will be on the exterior. If I've got a situation here where something looks like it's not going down and little leaves get kind of weird, I stop heating and straighten them out. Kind of tell them where I want them to go. And I always keep my heat out to the perimeter. And then I'm coming down 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. So that gives you an idea of options in shrinking. I'm not going to shrink all these, but go ahead and play with yours so you know what you want to use in your design. And let's get that out. This is a really beautiful bead. So here we have our options, and the green is fun peeking through there. And like I said, if you're partial more to your aquas and purples, add a little purple in there. Your kit will have, more of the greens and aquas, but certainly purples would look fun with this too. So now I'm going to show you how to shrink the leaves. I'll just shrink a couple of them. And this is nice to have a container to hold them so you're not chasing them around the table. But you can also, I'm going to show you two ways. So this is one, and this is hand forming. So this little container is nice because it keeps it contained. And there we are, and it's done moving on its own accord. And then I'm just twisting slightly. And notice I keep it elongated. I'm not bending it up because I want this twisted look and to be able to have a nice edge to stitch on. Now, if you don't have a container and you don't want it flying all over the place, you can flip your your mold over and do it like so. And then you can twist slightly like this and hold it till it cools. So this is how you make your leaves. Now we're going to go into assembling. So we're ready to get started beading, and the first thing we're going to do is take our big eye needle out, or your beading needle if you don't want to use your big eye. And you're going to take your fire line, and this is 8 pounds. And you're going to cut about, you won't need any more than a foot. And so you can use your fire line cutters. And for me, that happens to be what I like to use is an X-Acto knife blade. There. So you can choose to use the needle, or you can choose to not use the needle, and I'm going to not use the needle. Okay, so I'm going to create this little rosette, and this is very easy. So what I'm doing, the only thing that I want you to be sure of is that you're either, see how the shiny is right here and it's facing that way. Every time you add to the string, make sure it's either shiny or matte. So I'm just going to say the word shiny and then adding a teardrop. And then shiny facing out. And adding a teardrop. And shiny facing out. And adding a teardrop. And shiny facing out. And adding a teardrop. And shiny facing out. And adding a teardrop. Can you hear my little puppies gobbling in the background? Okay, so then I've got that on there. And I am going to put my big eye on. And what I'm going to do is just come around here and double catch everything. Got my tail there. I'm grabbing that, pulling my needle through, and then I can take it off. So doubled up and my 2 strings have met, and I'm just going to tie a simple knot for starters so that I can pull the whole collection tight. And I've got this nice little rosette. Now I can do a surgeon's knot, which is there crossed over, and then the tail goes around a couple of times, going around again, and I'm tying that tight, and then I'm doing that again. And I have a nice rosette, and I can come in here. You can come in here with your lines and cut. And I've got this sweet little rosette that shows on either side. So I've got my little rosette done, and now I'm going to cut more fire line. And what I've done is, this is about 10 inches. So I unraveled that and I cut about 30 inches. That's more than I need. Okay, I cut that length. And before I put my needle on, I'm going to take one of these pearl blue seed beads, a satin pale blue seed bead, and I strung it on one end of a line. And then I brought my 2 tails together so that it's down here as a stopper bead. Okay, then I brought my 2 tails together, and I'm putting my big eye on my needle. Thread your needle on whatever needle you've chosen. There, I've given myself a little bit of a tail there. And here I have my little stopper bead there. And then I'm going to follow this sequence here. So next is my pearl iridescent bead, galvanized iridescent bead, and this little bone prayer bead, and my gold filigree bead, and my hand-blown globe bead. And there I am. And now I'm just going to do a checkered stack of these chartreuse and these little pearl beads until I have filled the line in the vessel. And I'll just check them to see where I am. About halfway there. Got all those on, and my little, oh, he did go on. Sometimes the little green beads don't like to go on. I think they're check beads versus. So I've got a few extra on there, and we know that we need to take our needle off when we've, when we're taking beads off. So I'm going to take those extra off and put my needle back on. And the reason you want to do that if you're a beginner is because if you keep the needle on the thread and double back through, there's a good chance you'll catch the needle in the middle of the thread and then split the thread. And then you got a little mess on your hands, and then it creates knots, and then you end up cutting and starting over, and
and you get really frustrated. Okay, so we're right here, and the next wonderful thing we get to do is to put our largest, this is our larger of our two shrink plastic bead on. So cute, okay? And then we can see a little bit of the white and the stenciling I did, the little ivory and the white. And then I'm going to put my filigree flower on. And then next I add this rubber O-ring. And this acts as construction, as a bumper to help things from shifting, because the line is really thin. My fire line is really thin and my hole is big, and I don't want that bead to shift, those beads to shift back and forth. And this keeps them from not doing so. And then next, I'm going to put my rosette on, and I can choose to put the shiny side up or the matte up. So I put the shiny side up. Now, I've included these bugle beads, and the reason why is that if your hole right here, if you've stitched around here and because of how you've shrunk these or something, you've got a bigger hole in here, you'll have shifting too, and your wire will want to slide out of that. And the bugle bead, if you put it in there, let's say if I put this on there, I'm just going to show you. If I put this on there and it slipped into that gap, it also works kind of like an insulator, a little buffer. My hole was so tight that it doesn't need that. So you're going to have to make that call. If you've got a large gap in there on a hole, use your bugle bead. And if it fits in there nicely and snugly and works as a little internal lining, then that's really great, and your little rosette won't slip around. But if your piece is really tight like mine, you're not going to need it. So that's why the bugle beads are in there. And on this one, I needed the bugle bead, this little piece. That all just depends on the nature of how tightly you tied your knots, and the way, you know, your little twisted dagger beads are unique. And so we have that as an option. And those are the little tips that you get in this beginner's class. So then we're going to put our little bronze bead cap on. And our next shrink plastic bead. And then our fancy etched glass bead. And our bronze bead cap. Then next, a gold filigree. And this is because I'm tying in the fact that I did use gold down here, and I want to bring my eye around there. And then I'm going to make like a little saucer sandwich out of this, using another one. So that, see how my eye will move around here with the gold? Little gold, it sees it both, and it's just bringing it around. And then next, I'm adding the little iridescent bead, same thing. Repetition of design, bringing my eye around the picture plane. And you can't see it here, but I'm going to make a hanger loop bail out of the seed beads in the same sequence that I've done here. So green and blue. And I'll just guess to the size. That's not going to be enough, and we'll count them when I'm done in case you want to know the exact count. That I've chosen, and you may want yours bigger or shorter, but I'm going to make a choice here once I get these strung on and count to let you know. So how I kind of gauge this is I loop it around and say, oh, yeah, that looks good. In fact, I may take just a couple off, but that's okay because I have to take my needle off anyhow. I'm going to take 3 off. And the reason being is I wanted to end with the green because I started with the green. So let's count how many I used. I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 green and probably 8 blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blue. And this is a little technique we're going to do it. There's several ways to do this, but I'm going to show you how I'm choosing to do this. Pulling things apart under the gold, and I'm splitting my wires, my lines. And I'm pulling 1 line out and leaving 1 line on. Okay, so it's right there under the gold. And then I'm re-threading my needle, and I'm going to come down through the iridescent and through the two golds and the prayer bead. And then I can undo my needle and I'll be able to show you what I've done. It looks all tangledy right now, but so now I've got my 2 tails right here meeting, and that's how I'm going to tie this out. Now, if you felt insecure, but this is 8 pounds, and this certainly doesn't weigh 8 pounds, you could take these guys and double up through there. A lot of beaders like to do that if they're using regular beading line, but this is fire line, so it's really, really strong, and meaning 8 pound means, you know, it'll hold something 8 pounds, and this thing at the very most weighs, oh gosh, you know, 1 ounce, 2 ounces at the very, very most. So like before in making knots, just going to make 1 single one like I did in the rosette and pull everything tight. Make sure there isn't anything weird caught and everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing and nobody's acting out. And once I see that, then I can come in with my surgeon's knot. Now, the reason I don't do the surgeon's knot right away is because if there is some mistake I made, I can take the knot out and go back and fix it. Once I do the surgeon's knot, it's tied tight. So you know my surgeon's knot was a regular knot with this regular knot with the tail wrapped around twice and pulled in here tight. And I do 2 of them. And then you could always drop a drop of, you know, fancy glue, like super new glue on that knot, but this is gonna hold. Now, I go in with your favorite cutters. I go in with my X-Acto knife and cut my lines. And that's just me. You use your favorite cutter, but X-Acto knives are really cheap. A fishing, you know, clips, any kind of fire line requires it's like fishing line, so it requires something really strong. An X-Acto knife is, you know, I can get in there really tight with it. So there I have this sweet little pendant, and I'm going to come in here with the ribbon. And I'm going to meet the ribbon double it in half and take its little tip and run it through here. Got it nice and folded. Now I'm going to take my 2 tails and run them through here and create this pretty little knot here. And then that also showcases what's happening down here. And there we are done with our little project and our cone mold piece. So that's it looking down on it, and I'll twist those so they're on they're matching the 5 petal. And there, the fire line allows it movability, but it's doubled up and really strong, and there are no gaps in it. And our little O-ring is working really well as a little buffer. So thanks for joining me.